I'm going to show you how you can win the 100 Years' War as England, conquer the entirety of the British Isles in just the first 15 years, and then become economic hegemon by the 1400s. If you learned something from today's video, I've got a bit of a request. Consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 250,000 subs by the end of December, which is very fast approaching. I really would appreciate it. And if we get 6,000 likes in this video, I'm going to do the second part where we play from 1400 to 1500, 100 full years, in which we'll take over the entirety of France, as well as we'll start going into the colonies. In EU5, England starts off with 233 dynamic historical events and 31 unique country bonuses, including Lion Hearts that give infantry combat ability plus 10%, and the Longbowmen, one of the strongest early age levies. Let's go ahead and pin our favorite maps at the bottom of the screen, and the very first thing we'll be doing is we're gonna assign our current research, organized religions, guilds, universal Christianity, and the lowered purchasing of food will be our first researches, but the truth is we'll probably cancel whatever we need to start researching scholarly treaties once the age of Renaissance arrives, because we want to push for the loyalty of subjects and the subject opinion plus 10 ASAP. That is because with the more recent patches, decentralization gives loyalty of subjects plus 30, but centralization lowers it by minus 20. So if we were to not pay for our diplomatic spendings, pretty much all or most of our subjects would become disloyal. So the meta has massively changed and we need to adapt. That's why I'm thinking to turn this into a complete 1337 to 1836 campaign as the English, where the first part, of course, we play super toll, we conquer all of the British Isles, and we get filthy rich, and then in the second part we start colonizing and see how it goes, what we can do by the end of the campaign, right? This is honestly one of the best nations to learn the game, so if you pay close attention to this video, I genuinely think you will become a much better EU5 player. Let's also assign a better education for our heir. Admin education is always my favorite, and we can get a secondary government reform. We start with the Magna Carta, which is a unique English reform that gives nobles power plus 20% and some value pushes. Not great, but it is what it is. We're going to assign autocracy as our second government reform, simply because it gives us the extra 10% crown power, and right now, considering the changes to centralization, it's very difficult to get crown power, a lot more difficult than before, since you don't necessarily want to push for centralization early on if you have a lot of subject or a lot of land which you will be giving to your subject. So we will have a ton of subjects for at least 50 to 100 years, if not longer, which means we should start pushing for centralization once we have enough advances that allow us to keep high loyalty for our subjects. We're also going to give for the burghers a couple of privileges here, starting with the urban development grants that will allow us to get for the rest of the campaign monthly development plus 0.001. Before we give any other privilege, remember that giving privileges to your estate will lower the satisfaction of the other estate, so we cannot just spam all the privileges we want to give to the burghers from day one, because we might end up with a rebellion on our hand. I am going to give building rights for the building cost minus 5% and the push to plutocracy, but then I pretty much am forced now to give out for the lords another privilege, the elaborate court life. Remember also that every single privilege costs 5 legitimacy, which again lowers crown power the more privileges we give out. So this is going to be the last privilege we're giving, nothing else. For the yeomanry, we want to give the commoners militia for the extra peasant levy size and efficiency in combat, but we're going to do that a little bit later once we're ready to go to war with the French. We need to push that legitimacy up to 100 as soon as we can. So we're going to crank up our cost of court to 100%, lower the fort maintenance, the army maintenance, and we're going to assign for all of our estates automatic taxation. The AI in essence taxes the estate all the way up until you reach 50 satisfaction, which prevents rebellions and keeps factions happy. We do, however, have to manually assign the minting, so there's no automated system for minting. I'm not sure why, but it is what it is. We have a lot of fortifications, as you probably might have noticed, so we're going to delete a lot of these forts. In essence, you really just want to keep fortifications that are in the capital of your provinces. How do you know if a location is the capital of that province? Well, it will have a silver outline around the little icon. As for the capital of your country, we'll have a gold outline, which is the case with London. And if it's a pentagon, it's a city. If it's a round icon, it is a rural location. And if it's a square icon, then it is a town. That being said, considering I don't expect anyone to be able to land and push hard into the English Isles for quite some time, I'm going to be deleting a lot of forts. So after careful consideration, I deleted every single one of my fortifications with the exception of 3, the one in London and the 2 castles up north by the border with the rowdy Scots. Since we are in the economic tab, we're going to pay a little bit for our stability, not necessarily too much. We also can get another rival, and we will be rivaling the Danes, the vile Danish that have invaded our isles for so many years. They need to be punished eventually, right? For the heir, it wouldn't be the worst idea giving expensive education, to be fair, if you can afford it. But right now, I want to spend my money on some other things, not necessarily on my heir's education. I'm also going to assign my 2 cabinet members on strengthening government to increase our legitimacy a little bit quicker, as well as on increasing provincial control. What am I doing with that? In essence, I'm hopping around the 2nd cabinet member every few years to just overall get more control in my core areas around London. If we go to the control map mode, we want this particular region here to have as high control as possible, and we're going to be building pretty much unanimously around London and its adjacent provinces. We're not going to build much outside of the core area, which is around London, and the reason for that is because, of course, more control means you get more actual tax base out of those provinces. So by building in Harrow, which has 81 control, whatever potential tax base we have in Harrow will yield more actual tax base because we have 81% control. By comparison, if we go to the northern areas, even though this might have a lot of potential tax base, 1.91, way better than Harrow, we only get 0.38 because we have almost no control there. So eventually, once we do get more control to the northern areas, we will start building in those provinces. One thing to note of is that we are going to be a naval nation, so we're going to try our best to push towards naval societal values, which will lower the proximity cost through maritime by 1 flat and increase maritime presence by 30%. We're going to do our best not only to push towards the naval value from early on, but we're also going to do our best to increase our maritime presence around the entirety of the British coastline. We currently have about 50 maritime presence in most of our tiles, which is quite a decent amount actually. So we're going to need to double down. We're going to need to bring our ships into the coastal tiles, keep that maritime presence as high as possible. We can assign our king as the admiral of the fleet. That will give 25% increase in crown power as he is in command of the entirety of the navy. Similarly, if we assign Sir Thomas Plantagenet, which is a member of the English crown estate, in charge of the entirety of the army, we get another 25% crown power for our estate. Take note, this hasn't changed from 14% because it takes 1 month until any sort of change happens in the game. Also important to note, guys, whenever you assign your cabinet members, don't just assign someone that has a really high amount of ability in one of the 3 categories, like say this guy has 100 military but 0 diplo and 0 admin. No, assign a medium amount for all 3, or assign cabinet members that have at least 2 good categories. So in our case here, one of our cabinet members has admin and diplo ability really good, the other one has military and diplo really good, so we can use them for different cabinet interactions whenever needed. So that means once we reach 100 legitimacy, we're going to change this guy from strengthening government to some other interaction that requires either military ability or diplomatic ability, both of which he excels in. And after 1 month has passed, we see our actual income at about 27 ducats. Not that great overall, but better than nothing. Our crown power also increased to 24%. With the money that we still have, we need to do some very important things. First off, we need to start building up an actual fleet, because we need a fleet to defend against the French in case they decide to actually land in our country. We're going to build traditional galleys. I like to build about 10, maybe 11 galleys. Do take note though, if you build too many, you're not going to have enough sailors to sustain those. So we will need to get more sailors. How do we get more sailors? Early on, unfortunately, very few ways. One way would be to get the wharfs built, and we already have pretty much all the wharfs that we could possibly built. Second way is we can build some fishing villages that give 1 monthly sailor. It's not much, and you only get that 1 sailor if you've got 100% control. So honestly, building the fishing villages would only be wise if we build them around London. So like 5 fishing villages around this area, simply because we might get enough sailors to not lose maximum sailors and maintain the fleet. Hopefully, we're a little bit coping, but it's a necessary thing we need to do to defend against the French. Now, another thing that is super important that you guys know about is this particular building, the Stannery Court. A Stannery Court is a unique building, predominantly in Cornwall, as well as in parts of the Pale, which is your subjects in Ireland. What is this particular building? It's a horrible building that in essence lowers your control. Every single location that has this has zero control right now because the Stanley Court lowers the control by 25%. It is horrible, boys. Absolutely horrible. That means we're literally getting nothing, nada, niente almost from these locations. It is really bad. So what are we going to do to fix that? Well, to destroy this particular building, we don't meet the requirements, which is that we need to have at least 50% control, or we need the commercialization of tin mining event to trigger, which triggers after the 1600. So how are we going to get 50 control here? Very easy. We're going to create a subject there. We can do a historical subject, so we could release the Duchy of Cornwall and give these lands to them, but that would be a Cornish culture nation. We don't want that, do we now? No, sir. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom subject in the adjacent province of Plymouth, and we're going to turn this into a dominion. Remember, this is the best type of subject, the secret superpower of the English crown, because they have to have your culture as their culture, and they also get strength impact on Overlord minus 25%, which means we can have more dominions than any other types of subjects, and we will be giving this new dominion the province of Cornwall, which means that eventually, once they've integrated these locations, they will have 50% control, so they can remove this particular horrible building whenever they choose to. So after we integrate them, we don't need to worry about the Stanley Court anymore because they're going to be gone. And you know what else is going to be gone? The Cornish culture. Yep, that's right. These 3 locations will be English in just a few years because the new Earldom of Wessex, as it is called, is English Catholic. Also, speaking of different cultures, we do have the Welsh as our subject, but they have their own little subject around Wales, and their primary culture is English. So eventually, once they get the rest of the Welsh area, they will turn everybody into English culture. Also, some of you will be saying, Ludi, I have a great idea, bro. Listen to me. I played this game for like 100 hours. I know everything already. Oh, really? Oh, Ludi, look, release the County of Picardy. You've got cores, Ludi. Oh my God, it's amazing. No, don't do that. Hear me out. First off, aggressive expansion, or better yet antagonism, is not that big of a deal in the 100 Years' War, and you don't need to worry about using Reconquest of Core CB at all. And second off, releasing this historical subject will create a Picard subject. So if you really want to do something, you go for custom subject, and again, you create a dominion in the northern parts of France. That way, their primary culture is going to be English, so they're going to start converting everything that they'll eventually own to English, boys. Now take note, we also do start with the 2 infantry regiments. We're going to recruit more soldiers, namely the unique English Hobilars. We're going to recruit 2 of these Hobilars only, and we're going to make sure these Hobilars will be on the flanks of our formation and merge them with our levies whenever we go to war. Now we only have a little bit of money left, so what are we going to do with that money? We go to our markets and we see what exactly is in super high demand right now, as well as what is in surplus. So we're going to need to get some fine cloth, some furniture, some sturdy grains. We can go to goods, expand our geo, and we can see from here whether that would be a good idea to expand our geo and get some profit in the next 3 years. Apparently that's not the case. We can import some of these goods. So again, we go to the market, we sort by massive shortage, and then we can see where we can import it from. Fine cloth, usually there's not much available at the start of the campaign anywhere, as is the case with furniture, but sturdy grain, even that, okay, apparently nothing is available at the start of the freaking campaign. We got wood. We can import some lumber from the Oslo market. That works with me. You know what? I'll use that lumber from the Oslo market to build cheaper buildings, and then we can go over and we can actually start building some fine cloth manufactories, or tailors guilds as they're apparently called. Let's get a couple of them in London, and let's get some carpenters guilds as well in London. So in essence, for the start of the campaign, I'm only going to build in London and adjacent locations up until I've got no more available building levels. We only only have fully staffed 25 levels, so we can have 120 something more building levels already, which is really good. Also, with our initial diplomats, we're going to start improving relations with all of our various subjects. The higher the relations, the better, because every single 10 relations gives you one more level of loyalty, one plus one loyalty, better yet. We see here, because we've got 141 Welsh opinion of the English, that gives us plus 14 subject opinion of overlord increase in relations. The French demand the return of Sire Robert d'Artois. No, go away, stinky Frenchman. See, I say that with the French accent because you guessed it, boys. We also are French. That's right, our court language is French. It's not English. The crown of France. We are the rightful kings of France. We get to conquer the French throne, Casus Belli on the French for 4 years, as well as the new 100 Years War situation has started. We see who is on the side of the French, who is on the side of the English, and the current strength at 20% on our side and 80% on the French. Yeah, like I said, the French are ridiculously overpowered. In this patch, at least, it honestly is just better to let them keep it. You play in your British Isles, no headache, no stress, and you actually can get stronger, and both economically stronger and militarily stronger than them as you progress if you do play your cards right. And I'll show you guys exactly how to do that today, of course. Whenever you have the option of moving towards naval value, even a little bit, always go for it, because pushing towards maximum naval value is one of our top priorities right now. We are currently capped at 11.07 naval, because that's the passive drift towards naval, but we can go above that cap from events, from parliaments and such. We also got some devastation in London, which means we have minus 25 prosperity. So remember, every single time you have a lower prosperity, it is an absolute must that you fix it. So we're gonna go for recovery effort in Middlesex and get rid of that devastation or lowered prosperity in London, especially in the capital. You absolutely never want to have lowered prosperity, because remember, positive prosperity gives population growth, migration attraction, increases development, character life expectancy, whilst the negative has the literal opposite effects. Also, if you ever want to select your fleets and you go like this on the map, it's only going to select your army. So what you need to do is you need to hold left control and then you select the fleets. We're going to be merging all of our fleets into one. We also can construct a grand apartment building, which is a unique English building. It will give plus 100% local crown power. Absolutely yes. Now, you also can press G to merge your ships or armies, or you can right click on the biggest one and then automatically they just merge into the one big stack. So because we got 14 ships now in this sea tile, we're currently getting 0.22 increase in maritime presence. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and we're gonna assign patrol the seas objective and assign it at least 4 sea tiles. Right now this is the whole fleet we have, so technically this should go around the entirety of the nation, but at the very least, if we get the east coast with increased maritime presence, we can ignore the west coast, which is predominantly subjects anyway. To win the 100 Years War, we need to either get 130 locations controlled by us or our subjects, or we have to enforce the union with France peace treaty. I like to get the coastline of France in the 100 Years War. If we manage to grab all of the northern parts of the coastline, eventually, because of the proximity is super low because of our maritime presence, we would be able to get literally 100 control on the entirety of the northern coastline, since our capital is right next to it. So the difference would be from London to this location, whatever this is called. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles, all of which are sea tiles. So if we get 100 maritime presence, that's going to literally be 80 control in this location, more than the French would be able to get from Paris, we would be able to get from London. That's crazy. And you'll see that eventually, because we will be, of course, expanding as well. Probably not as much in the first part though. Now with 24 ducats a month, it's not bad. It means we can start to actually properly build up our industry. So we're going to do more buildings in London. Let's see, we've got 600 available burghers, so we definitely can get more of everything, including a library. A library is really important because we need population promotion speed, and I'm actually surprised that we don't have a library from day one. But to get a library, we need books. So how are we going to get books? We need scriptoriums, which is a clergy building, and those scriptoriums are going to require paper makers guild. So we're going to queue up a paper makers guild, a jewelers, a winery, saltpeter. So we have a little bit of every single industry country pretty much. Also, remember that we wanted to give out this privilege for the commonry or the yeomanry. We're going to give it out now, the commoners militia. And the impact of that is that weaponry will be in higher demand. So the weaponsmith here is going to stop being unprofitable because nobody is buying their weapons and the input goods are expensive, and they're going to actually start making a little bit of money off of the fact that there's going to be higher demand for weapons from the yeomanry. If you hover over the estate itself, you can see what exactly this estate is spending their money on. So they're spending 44 ducats on buying these particular goods, only 0.04 to buy weaponry, which hopefully will increase a little bit after we gave out that privilege. We now can also summon our first parliament in London, of course. We've got some really good options for the first debate, including promote urbanization, which is going to allow us to build a town in Dover, but I'm actually going to use the first parliament to pass the legislation. So I want a debate that has initial massive support, like the host army exercise or the ties with neighbors. That way we start with 69% support, which means we can automatically use ask for law change and change one of our initial laws. The English Parliament, that's right, boys, you heard it here first. I'm against the English Parliament. So the English Parliament actually lowers your crown power by 33%, but it gives maximum taxation plus 10%, which is amazing. Where is it actually? No, it's not. Hear me out. So maximum taxation plus 10%, but we can only tax the lords 20% despite the maximum being 34. Why is that? Because we don't have enough satisfaction with them right now. Same with the burghers. We can tax them 49%, but we're stuck at 36%. The yeomanry, yes, we can tax 44%, but we can have up to maximum 49. So quite literally 5% or more of that taxation is not attainable because we don't have enough satisfaction with those estates. And I'm not even talking about the clergy, because the clergy are automatically is not taxable because we're Catholics, right? So by changing from the English Parliament to favor the ruler, we still can increase the maximum taxation by 5%. So we're still taxing the literal exact same amount that we're taxing right now, and we get 20% increase in power for the crown. That, with the 33% that we're negating from the English Parliament, we have a 53% increase in crown power. So we are eventually going to go up to like 35% crown power from the 1330s, man. That is wild. I would also love to change some more of these legislations. So let's see if we're able to get another 50% support. Feel like I'm probably not going to be able to. Promote communal values, not the worst idea. Yeah, 45. Unless we get from an event and another 5%, we're likely not going to be able to do anything here. I'm afraid it looks like we are not getting that extra 5%. Oh, okay. This is a bit of a tricky one. We could technically get the 20% support and we can use a second time the parliament, but we would get an urban parliament seat. Urban parliament seats are horrible, right? Because they increase local burgher power plus 25%. They don't really give anything in return. But in this particular case, I normally wouldn't accept these types of buildings for some support, but in this case, I'm accepting it because I will eventually be able to get rid of it. And with the new 70% parliament support, we're going to change a very specific law. We're going to change from the longbow competitions, which is a horrible law, to the noble levies that give levy combat efficiency more than the longbow competition gives, and it doesn't give peasant power. It also allows us to recruit more noble levy size. It is a very good one to have overall, especially if we're planning to fight the French, right? Now also, guys, I want to point something out. Whilst you're in the 100 Years War situation, you've got this particular modifier. You're not able to form any country. So that means you cannot form Great Britain whilst you are in the 100 Years War. But here's the kicker, boys. Does Great Britain have any advances that we don't have right now? No, they don't. Forming Great Britain is a nice little thing from an RP perspective, but you don't actually get anything from forming Great Britain, especially from forming it now. So we're not in a rush with forming Great Britain. In fact, depending on how things go in the campaign, I might even form a different nation and knight Great Britain. Let's see. I've got some interesting plans going if we get the light goal for the second part. One more building that is absolutely vital that we build is the hospital, and only in our capital. Doesn't matter the rest of the country. The capital is vital to do it because the hospital will allow us to get disease resistance and character life expectancy increase for whatever characters are in that location. So all of our royal household and our cabinet members and everybody else is located in London, which is why, of course, we want to have a hospital in London. We don't care about the rest of the country, okay? We're scumbags like that, but it is what it is. We also need to start urbanizing the area around London. London. So whenever we get the money, we need to start making towns out of every single little bit of locations here. The Order of the Garter, a unique legislation for the English. There's a lot of different options here. Honestly, the best two would be the Knight's Companion, which gives efficiency of cabinet and estate satisfaction plus 5%, which means we can tax the nobles another 5%. So we would be able to tax them up to 26%, so we get like an extra 3 ducats or something. The problem with this is, of course, you get 50% nobles power, but they're already super freaking strong regardless. It's not going to make that much of a massive more difference. Second one I like to go is the Alms Knights, because we get promotion speed, which can actually be really good, and very little power for the peasantry with a little bit more estate satisfaction. I'm going to go for the Knights for now. We might change it to the Alms Knights later down the line though. We're going to continue to build up in London 3 more tailors guilds, and we're also going to change our employment system from first come first serve, which gives a traditional economy push, to most profitable first, that will give us capital economy push. We really want that. It will cost 10 stability, but the sooner you do this, the faster you start getting your capital economy push. Look at that, we're almost at it. We are still pushing towards a traditional by 0.02. So eventually, once we move away from nobility control mining operations, we'll start actually getting the drift towards capital economy. We actually have the potential to become one of the first industrial nations in the world as the English, which is honestly very historical. It was actually the first industrial nation. The Scottish Civil War, we've got 2 options here. Either we enforce the treaty, which might lead to some conflict between us, or we let them be. No, we're gonna enforce the treaties. We're playing historical scumbag Englishmen here, so yeah. Oh no, the Scots said no. How dare you not be bullied by us, you little schnitzels. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of max expanding of RGOs. We can hold less shift, and that way we click and we expand whatever RGOs are in super high demand. Right now, horsies are in really high demand, so we're expanding that. Also, we want to create another subject up north. We're going to be creating the very first Scottish subject, and it's going to be, you guessed it, a dominion, which means that the Earldom of Teviotdale is also an English primary culture nation that will be fed a lot of Scottish lands once we might come in possession of those lands. War! The vile Frenchmen have declared war on us. No, who would have expected? Everybody would have expected this. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do was we're gonna raise our levies, including our naval levies and our actual land navies. Did I just say land navies? What's wrong with the French? Very clearly so outnumber us. They've got 164,000 soldiers compared to our 60,000. So yeah, our primary goal is to make sure that we get naval supremacy. So that means engage their fleets and destroy their fleets before they land anything. Actually, no, we do want them to land stuff, actually, because that's how we're gonna get the war score to win the war. Basically, we let the French themselves land on our area, so we destroy those units when they land. Ooh, we can get 108 ducats from closing French spy monasteries. Yeah, I'm down for that. Oh, look at those sneaky Normans trying to land their units in the northern parts of my country, brother. Honestly, the best way to win this war is to just engage the enemy fleets and wipe them out whenever they're trying to land units. That's the easiest way to actually destroy enemy soldiers, which of course gives us war score. It's not going to be an easy one, but look at that. From battles alone, we gain 5% war score. Occupation blockades is not a big deal. We can get rid of that easily. And it's also capped because they can only occupy the areas that we have in France itself. So they cannot really go above 8 to 9% maximum war score from that. The longer we stay in this war, the more war score we're gonna get by them just doing this stupid thing. They're landing stuff which we can wipe out easily. And with the current patch, they can literally just raise another fleet and another fleet and another fleet. So again, more and more war score the longer we're in the war. There you go, boys. We're already getting positive war score now. 0.6. Oh my god, it's amazing. And yes, we're starting to conquer back the lands that they took from us. Most of the French army is in the south now, sieging down Bordeaux, so we can take advantage of that and we can land all of our units in the northern areas, or we can just do some skirmishes, take some lands, cause some war exhaustion for the French and company, and then get out of there before they wipe out our units. In essence, I guess you could call this guerrilla warfare before guerrilla warfare was even a thing. Unfortunately, it's the only way to play as the English right now. Hey, the Age of Renaissance. Of course, we're gonna go for admin focus focus, which has the best advances by far, including Deusvult, the religious war. Once we research this for the rest of the campaign, we can attack with religious war whatever other nations have a different religion from us. But more importantly, the proximity cost minus 2.5% is absolutely massive. So because we unsieged the northern areas, the French sent almost the entirety of their army into the north to resiege it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our little attack force to relieve the siege on Bordeaux, destroying any sort of progress they might have had on the siege. Cicius, then Buticus Maximus. Holy mother of God, this is wild, bro. 75,000 soldiers sieging down Bordeaux. What I'd like to see Paradox do is make it historical, man. Like, make the Bretonians, make the Burgundians, make the Flemish switch sides. Like, historically, the Burgundians, the Britons, and the Flemish joined the English pretty much instantly because they had more to gain from that than being on the side of the French. In our case here, they're all motherfreaking loyal. Look at that. Every single one of these little shits is hella loyal. This is just not historical, bro, at all. How's this even possible? And the truth is, it's actually easier to fight the French in 100 years from now when they've centralized and they've annexed most of these subjects, because them annexing most of the subjects means they're going to have significantly less control in most of their country, and because of that they're going to have less levies and less economy to fight us, so we're going to have an easier time attacking them. I could just peace out now with giving them the provinces and finishing the 100 Years War, but we want to wait until we get our casus belli on the Scots, because the Scots are guaranteed by the French. So if we attack them now, the French are not joining on the side of the Scots because they already are at war with us. Also, what the hell is this, man? 107,000 soldiers in one location. This is just crazy. That being said, we did destroy 17,000 Frenchmen, so technically we're winning despite having 3 times less soldiers. We managed to get quite a bit of money, so let's expand more of our RGOs. Again, horses, legumes, and lumber. Interesting. Since the Norman conquest in 1066, ordinary English folk have been forced to have their legal trials heard in French, a language they don't even understand. This actually gives us access to the language of pleading, unique policy or law. If we were to abolish and make English our new court language, we would lose access to this type of law. We don't want to lose access to it. We could instead change to common law policy, which would make peasants happier, or we can retain French as the universal language. We're going to retain French, which means we lose 2.5 stability, but we're going to change from French to Southern English dialect once we get 20 stability, and that way we also get to keep the language of pleading law, which we would otherwise lose. We really don't want to lose that. It's literally just free bonuses for our nobility, and it allows us to tax our nobility more. One more thing to note, guys, is the English have access to a unique building called the Peel Tower that increases monthly prosperity by 1% and increases garrison size by 100. You can only build this particular buildings on your borders, however, but that being said, it is super worth it. The monthly prosperity itself is absolutely huge, guys. You want to reach 100 prosperity, the sooner the better. It is super expensive though as a building, so make sure you build it in London first and then spamming around the rest of the high value areas afterwards, of course. All right, looks like it's time for a second gathering of the men and women of England into a parliament to grab a hold of the province of Galloway. And by getting a little bit of bellicosi or whatever you want to call it, we can get more parliament support to reach another 50%. Why are we doing that, you ask? Well, we need to change another legislation. Yup, we want to go from a nobility controlled mining operation to burgher controlled mining operation, which pushes us towards capital economy and plutocracy, and we get a bit more satisfaction for the burghers. Absolute banger, as they say in England, right? Now with the casus belli against the Scots, we can attack them, but we need to make sure we don't have levies raised, because we cannot declare war once we have levies raised. So we're going to go back to our military and we're going to disband all of our levies. Same goes for the navy. We're going to disband all of our naval levies, which puts us a little bit in a dangerous precocious spot, but it's not the end of the world. There you go. We can attack now the Scottish, and now we can raise again all of our naval as well as our military levies. Okay, time to take candy from little kids over here. That's literally how this war is gonna go. They've got like 5,000 soldiers. Oh my god, this is gonna be a literal slaughter fest. I feel bad for the Scots, except I don't, and I'm gonna make them all English. That's right, buddy. I am the bad guy all along. Actually, curious to see how many soldiers we lose if we assault this. We lost about 10,000, give or take, I think. Yeah, that's worth it. We literally have a Swedish, or better yet, a Scottish buffet. Let's divide this army in half and just more quickly wipe out the rest of the nation. Time to assault the second castle they've got in Perth, or Perth, as it's apparently pronounced in Scottish. Boom shakalaka, another 5,000 dead for a single castle. Feels bad, man. But it's a sacrifice I'm willing for you to make, dear soldier, as your general, you know, sitting here, having my hot cocoa, giving you the order to go lay your life down for my personal gain. It's what war is really all about. All right, speaking of, let's also start getting new advances since we've got Renaissance unlocked. Well, we've got Scholarly Treaties unlocked for now. We're going to go, of course, for the subject opinion, and we're going to push for the proximity cost minus 2.5% from the local infrastructure. We also want to push for the stability investment and the construction speed, which should help out quite a bit as we progress in the campaign. All right, so we got 74% war score, which is more than enough to enforce what we want to get from them. First off, we're going to annul any sort of treaties they might have with the French, which means we don't need to worry about the French in the next war against Scotland. I would love to turn Scotland into a dominion, but it would be a little bit too much war score. So instead, we're going to just grab a little bit of their lands and create multiple smaller dominions out of Scotland, pretty much. Oh, looks like this is exactly 100% total peace cost. We've got a little bit of a coalition of 5 Irish nations, the Isle of Man and Scotland. Yeah, I think we can handle that. We shouldn't have any issues with it. When it comes to the French, we actually could just peace out without any sort of an issue. Look at that, -8 war score. So we could just give them like a little bit of money. Let's say we give them 130 ducats and we finish the war. And we keep all of our provinces too. I'm going to take this time to consolidate the rest of the British Isles to just get stronger and stronger. And I want to keep the 100 Years War situation because that's going to allow me to grab lands a lot cheaper once I have an opportunity to do so. And yes, I know I cannot form Great Britain. Like I said, it is pointless when you have the same advances as the Great British as you do as the English. Even if there might be some extra advances in the late part of the campaign, by that point, it's going to be a different situation altogether. We're still in the first part of the campaign. The border raids are here, boys. These are unique interactions between Scotland and England. If we have a truce with each other, raiders from either side will shortly begin to raid one another, causing damage to raided location. Or we get the same thing, but we also train our local militia for 253. I'm actually not sure if this really helps out much, but I'm gonna do it because I got the money, so why not? Oh, that is actually huge. We get pushed towards conciliatory, and we get opinion with quite a lot of nations, including the Kingdom of France. Why would we want that though? All right, fine, we're gonna get it because we want to go towards conciliatory value. We are significantly belligerent right now. 42 belligerent is crazy to think about. It does mean we get more war score cost reduction, so we can take more stuff in wars, but we really want to push for conciliatory because we get that extra diplomatic reputation, which is huge. Efficiency of cabinet. All right, Earldom of Teviotdale, it's time for you to grow to massive amounts, buddy boy. There we go. We give them Lothian as well, and we can create another subject right next to them. You guessed it, it's the famous dominion of Galloway, and it's not the only one. We're gonna have a third one created in the northern parts too. Oh no, the Black Death has begun, boys. How are we gonna deal with this? That is the age-old question, isn't it? Some other very important buildings to have as soon as you can are the Chancery, that increases efficiency of cabinet, and the Market Warehouse, that gives you extra trade advantage and, more importantly, increases the maximum stockpile for all the resources in your market. Honestly, the Market Warehouse, I'd say max it out, but right now we just don't have enough burgers, so we gotta wait until we get more burgers promoted before we do any more buildings in here. So that means what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna begin to upgrade adjacent locations to towns and start building in those towns at the same time as I'm building in London. Okay, well, that was the fastest spread of the Black Death imaginable. I don't even know how it managed to arrive so fast to us, but sure, that has to be a record. We're gonna do a few things to help out with the Black Death. First off, we're gonna segregate the infected, which will give us disease resistance plus 15%. That is huge. Remember that you cannot have this and procure remedies and expel the sick at the same time, so always go for segregate the infected. Expel the sick will give you access to the pest house that gives 30% disease resistance, but this is a building that you have to individually build in every location, so it's better just to get the 15% bonus for the whole country without spending any money on it. We're also going to be moving the court into hiding, which should technically increase the chance of our royal family pops not dying, hopefully. We can get a little bit of stability increase from finding the culprit. Well, looks like we did find the guilty scumbags here. The Norse Gale minorities were the ones that caused the plague all along. I freaking knew it, man. I said it before. I'm gonna say it again. The Norse Gales, they're the worst ones, bro. Holy mother of God. Plague pits. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm so happy I'm not living in this particular time period. It feels like this would not have been a fun period to live in. All right, boys. So what we're gonna do next with the third parliament is we're changing over the royal court customs to the itinerant court, which will give us proximity cost through land minus 10%. Of course, we want to get naval proximity costs, but through land proximity cost is also good. Obviously, we want to get as much as possible. Look at the difference though. From the sea areas, what's happening is proximity goes from London to the sea tile, and then from the sea tile to the locations themselves. So all the way to Bridlington, we've got 36 proximity, despite it not even be remotely close to London. So how are we going to expand the roads as the English? It's very different from most nations because we are a naval nation. Most nations, you would just go like this. You would click on your capital and you'd expand to whatever locations. You still will do that to the most adjacent parts here. So all of the areas inwards, we do expand from London, but from the northern areas and more further away regions, we're going to expand from the coastal tiles. So remember that the proximity reaches in Bridlington. So from Bridlington, we're going to build a road outwards to Norton, to Selby, and so on. And then the proximity is going to go via sea tile to Bridlington, Selby, Norton, etc. instead of going via land from the capital all the way there, since proximity always chooses the fastest route possible. Also, we have massive issues now because of the plague. We lost a big chunk of our population, guys, and I really mean a big chunk. We're down 1.2 million pops and decreasing. We almost got rid of the plague though, so hopefully it's not going to be too many more dead. But the thing is, with all of these dead people, we lost a lot of burgers. So we're missing 1.9 thousand burgers right now in London alone, which is a big deal. We do have a lot of peasants. So what we're going to do is we're going to build some irrigation in London, because we will need to eventually max out our irrigation regardless. Might as well do it now since we have the peasants, so that's not going to be any sort of an issue whilst the rest of the pops here get promoted. And irrigation gives per level 10% local food production, and we're also producing wheat in London, so we really can double down on this. More food available also in here means we're going to attract more people, and we can grow this city to an insane population hub. Also, take note, when it comes to the northern areas, which are Northumbrian, don't worry about it too much. I don't recommend you waste your time with your cabinet members to convert this to English, because it will naturally happen, even though it's not actively being turned into English. Check it out. Northumbrian, if we hover over, has 33 cultural tradition, because there's, I believe, 1 or 2 Northumbrian countries, right? Is Leicester also, or Lancaster, Northumbrian? It is. Okay. Their cultural tradition is nothing compared to our cultural influence, which is more than double, which means that naturally this will all become English passively. Also, you probably noticed that I'm investing 100% in stability right now. Why is that? Because stability early on is the easiest way to get population promotion speed, and because we lost so many burgers and so many pops in the cities that need to be promoted back, every single little bit of population promotion is necessary. We already have a little bit of free subjects, which again gives us 12% for the time being population promotion speed. If we get 100% stability, that's going to give us 100% population promotion speed, and with the libraries built in all of our towns, that also doubles down on it too. Truth is that right after the plague finishes, you will have about 10 to 15 years where you just need to chill, not do anything, and just recover from the horrible after effects of the plague. Also, kind of funny thing happened here. We are close to getting 50% parliament support, and we can change a policy. Central Council. This is one of the laws that I was planning on changing to anyway. Currently, we've got feudal administration. Central Council is better. We're going to do that, which cost us 12 stability, but we basically didn't need to use 50% parliament support to change this law, which we would have wanted to anyway. And another thing to take note of, the Order of the Garter policy takes a very long time to implement, another 10 years. So altogether, altogether, it takes about 20 years to implement this particular law. I don't know why it takes so long. I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's not working as desired and somebody added an extra 0 in the code. I will report this to Paradox because I'm not sure if this is really how it's supposed to be. It might just not be. So with the 50% support, we're gonna do another Casus Belli on Clan the Boys. We're gonna be invading Clan the Boys since we want to have a few more subjects in the northern parts of Ireland. Oh, and because we don't need to worry about the northern areas, we're gonna be disbanding the 2 castles we have by the borders with our dominions. Oh, this is huge, guys. We've got the decline of the Cinque Port. What is this? The Cinque Port is a unique building, military building that gives monthly sailors +3 at the cost of 100% burgher power. This is a building that only the estates can build, and at the start of the campaign we've got quite a few of these around the southern areas, namely Canterbury, Rochester, Dover. All of these locations have the Cinque Port, which is why we have the extra sailors, right? But we get events like these where we can start building docks. You could go for the historical option, which would be building the first dock in Southampton, but Southampton is somewhere around here if I'm not mistaken. It's very far, right over here. It is a very big difference, and because there's only 40 control in Southampton, we would not get all the sailors. We would only get 40% of whatever sailors the dock offers, right? So we want to build it as close and as high control area as possible, which is Rochester. Rochester is right next to our capital, which has 67 control now. Once we upgrade this to a town, it's going to have significantly more control, so we can get eventually 100% of whatever the dock is offering us. Our subjects basically did most of the heavy lifting here. It will be a full annexationicos, and you probably guessed it, boys, it's gonna be time for another subject. The best part about Dominions too is that remember that their strength against the Overlord is -25 when weighed, so we can have a lot more Dominions than we can have fiefdoms and all the other types of subjects, which is huge, really. One more thing that will massively help you in recovering your population after the plague strikes is building granaries. Granaries will help you store more food, and more months of stored food will give you more population growth by 0.01 for every 3 months of stored food. Fastest way to grow that is just spamming granaries. Whenever you got extra money, they're not super expensive. Also, do make sure you have the pops to employ in them. It's only 50 pops required to employ. Take note though, the building levels will be reached at some point, and then you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. I would sacrifice granaries in the capital and just build them in other areas around the capital and within the country to grow population everywhere else, because the capital will regardless have an insane amount of pops as you grow. But at our particular point of the campaign, we've got a lot of laborers available in the capital. It's cheap to build, and we cannot really build anything from the burger side because we gotta wait for the burgers to get promoted, so we might as well go for the granaries whilst we can. I'm also not gonna lie, guys, I'm a bit disappointed with what they've done change wise with the trade. Like, we're getting 2.91 ducats from trade right now, and I've took like 30 minutes, paused and took 30 minutes to find the most optimal trade routes to make some money off of them. This is just bad, bro. I'm sorry, but I don't like that. I feel like this is bad design personally. They should either revert it to the way it was before when trade was actually viable, or fix it, because this is just not fun. I get it, it was kind of OP at times, but most people didn't even know how to use it, and the 1 to 5% of the player base that did know how to use trade, sure, they were getting really rich, but they were having fun with it. Now, trade is not even fun, and it's just tedious, because it took me literally half an hour to find some trade routes to get positive income. What the hell is that about, man? That's not okay, in my opinion. I really hope this gets changed, because I'm not happy with this part in this particular patch, personally. And also, armies, regular armies, are insanely overpowered still. That's why, like I said, if you keep your cavalry on the flanks, you will crush everybody in your wars easily. Now, that being said, guys, whilst your population is recovering in London, you still can build tailors guilds in locations where you do have burghers available, like Oxford, Cambridge, Coventry. All of these locations do have quite a few tailors, well, quite a few burghers, so build up in those locations, those towns, because you still can use the fine cloth to make money, even though it might not be as much as you would from the capital. There's still pretty decent control in these areas. Look at that, 75 in the province of Lynn, because of 30 plus from proximity to capital. capital and because of our cabinet member working in that particular location right now. The Black Death has ended with 1.2 million dead on our side. Could have been worse. The French lost about 3 million, so I'm a little bit happy with what happened. We are evening the gap between us and the Francian culture, I guess. Wait a second, guys. Angus, is this where the beef originates from? Also, take note, guys, when it comes to Jewel Rulers Guild, make sure you only build them if you have available silver and gold in your market. Otherwise, you might end up not actually making much of a profit off of them. And when it comes to Paper Makers Guild, honestly, just spam them. Paper makers are always going to be absolutely big money makers because you turn them into books, which not only your pops will use, but you can use those books to export and make a buttload of money. Well, not so much buttload anymore from trade, but you're going to make some money off a trade with them too. And yes, you guessed it, we need to expand our ship sizes. Let's get, I don't know, another 15 galleys so we can get a secondary fleet. We got that dock over here, which should give us quite a decent amount of sailors. At max capacity, it would give 16 sailors, but now it's not at max capacity because it hasn't yet recruited all the soldiers it needs, because Rochester is not even a town. It's a freaking rural location, which begs the question, how is it possible for us to have a dock in a rural location? The English are definitely special, guys. Oh yeah, baby, 36% crown power. That's what I'm talking about here. Time for our second and final war against Scotland. We should be able to grab everything they got left now. I actually just noticed, but whenever we're raising levies, we got 3 soldiers being raised from the island of Jersey. Is this Henry Cavill and his brothers? Because I'd win every single war if that was the case. We're gonna do some separate peace deals with the allies of the Scots first to wipe them completely out too. That way we get rid of 3 annoying little schnitzels in the British Isles, including the Isle of Man, which, in case you're wondering, is named that because it's only men there. In essence, guys, we've created 6-7 freaking Scottish nations at this point, and Galloway as well as Derry still have that infinite civil war, which I really hope is going to finish at some point. Now all of our money will be going towards more galleys, and yes, I am aware that galleys are not the best ship type for propagating maritime presence. We need to embrace banking first in order to get access to the docks, which afterwards unlocks barks, so then we can replace a big chunk of our fleet with barks, or make more ships really, which gives 0.14 maritime presence compared to the 0.08 maritime presence increase that galleys give. Now guys, I also want to point out, if there's certain things that I'm going through a little bit too fast and you don't really understand what's happening in the game, I highly recommend you check out my mechanics guides. I got like 7 of them already out, explaining every single detail of the game individually, so you better learn how to play the game afterwards. Well, color me surprised, the French have attacked us once more. They are making the mistake of landing a big chunk of units now on my property, so we're gonna be wiping out all these units and getting a lot more war score in the process. There you go, boys, stacking Vipanicarum. Also take note, I have a lot more subjects now, so I am having an easier time keeping in check the French, because my subjects are doing a lot of the heavy lifting too. And it seems like professional army has spread to 26% of our locations. It would cost 63 stability to embrace it. I don't want to waste my stability, so I'm gonna wait until it spreads to a few more locations. Also, look at the difference now between us and the French compared to the last war. We defeated 10,000, we wiped out 10,000 of their soldiers, but they only have 73,000 rather than 160,000 because they lost a lot of units to the plague, and they also integrated some of their subjects, which means that they have less control, which means less levies from their lands. Like I said earlier, 100 years into the game, the French are 5 times easier to defeat than they are at the start of the campaign, which is why it's very important that you do not end the 100 Years' War just to form Great Britain when you literally get nothing out of forming Great Britain. Also, we have the option of requesting war entry for nations around the French. A lot of the times, if they hate the French, they will join on our side, and you can see from the color on the map too. So in our case here, we saw that the Aragonese were very likely to join on our side, which means we now have an extra 10,000 soldiers to fight for us. The problem with doing this though is that the French will likely get more war score from sieging down that nation that you called to be on your side. In our case here, the Aragonese got their asses handed, and that just is not good at all. It's a smart thing to do if we're ready to reinforce them. I just wanted to show you guys what that interaction does more than anything really. All right, so here's a bit of a strange one, guys. They got 39,000 soldiers left. We technically could probably win this. I just don't want to have to deal with this stuff now. I got enough stuff to deal in the British Isles. I'll go into France later. It's not yet time. But here's the weird part. I cannot do a white peace when I enforce demand. But if I offer tribute, I can do a white peace. What the f? They do not desire anything more. Anything more than what? You're not getting anything. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna make a ticket out of this. This is crazy, man. Is this actually working as desired? I'm so confused right now. I don't know, man. I'm gonna take advantage of this. I'm just gonna get my white piece. There you go. We got white piece, boys. We also are starting to make towns now. Rochester is the first one we're upgrading to a town, but I'm gonna do more. Let's see which one of these locations has higher population. I'd say probably this one. What is this? Chelmsford. Chelmsford's got 20,000 population. Prittlewell has 19,000, but it is a coastal town. I would prefer coastal town, so let's do Prittlewell. I'm gonna see if I can do this without using my soldiers. I want to see if my subjects alone can overtake the entirety of Clan Ricard. Is it just me, or does Clan Ricard sound a little bit Spanish? Sounds like Clan Ricardo. Ricardo's folk? Is that what's happening there? Okay, so now with Rochester as officially a town, first building we're gonna do is a temple that increases the max control by 5%. We're gonna follow that up with a library that gives us more population promotion speed, as we mentioned earlier. We also want to get a wharf for the extra sailor and a marketplace so we can trade some stuff, and we're going to start, of course, getting some actual production buildings going in. Tool guild, glass, spinners, yada yada yada, everything you need to have a proper functioning town. Now if we look at our sea tiles, boys, we're getting 0.27 maritime presence in the eastern seas as well as 0.28 in the southern areas. What determines this? Because it's not just in the one tile where the fleet is present, it's in all of the tiles within that particular sea province, I guess you could call it. If we go to the provincial map mode, we see that Mercia coastline has 7 locations, so every one of the location within that particular province is getting the 0.28 increase. Same how in the southern areas, every location in the Eastern Channel province, which has 5 locations, are getting the maritime presence increase as well. This is very important to take note of because, for example, it can be a bit tricky sometimes. We see this little western area is a different province. You see, it's called the Western Channel, which has 4 locations. It has almost the same color, but it's a different one. And because it's a different one, it's not getting any of the maritime presence. So we're only at 23. We need to have another fleet set up in this particular province at some point to increase maritime presence too. Or we can just bring this one here and keep it there for a couple of months or a couple of years until the maritime presence increases. Now, I am going to embrace professional armies. It's going to cost a little bit of stability, but it's worth it because we do need to start researching actual professional soldiers. We're going to do armories first, start piling up manpower, and then follow that up with hoofness research and handgunners so we can use the already piled up manpower to hire the new units once we have the advance unlocked. Okay, time for another Irish appearance, the 3rd Irish Dominion. And I think with Desmond, or Beriad Munster, which we're going to be attacking now, that should be most of them actually. I don't think there's many left afterwards. Just like a little bit of a fringe area here and there, and that's pretty much it. It's annoying though that these are like really small one location nations. Oh, no way. So because we annexed Clan Ricard, we got their tributaries. Thomond is now a tributary of ours. I don't want Thomond as a tributary though. Ew. I'm gonna have to cancel their tributary status and take the truce once I'm not at war. Oh, look at that, boys. The Englishening of Ireland has begun, as has the Englishening of Wales. And yes, that's a word. I didn't just invent it, I swear. Well, that's unfortunate. Edward is dead. We're gonna keep the capital in London, and we've got a new king, Edward, surprisingly. Also, the amount of names in England is just vast. We got Edward, we've got Edwarda, we also have Eddie. It's just a variety of different. Oh my god, her name, I thought it was Edwarda. It's Eleanor. Isn't that the female version of Edward? Oh my god. It literally is just one name in the whole country, isn't it? All right, boys, that time has arrived also. We're changing to the Southern English dialect, which means we've got 8% court language, a lot less than we would if we went for, say, Latin. But we want to start, spreading the word, the good word about the English language around the world. Now, it goes without saying, guys, but we're going to declare ourselves for the Pope when it comes to the Western Schism, because, we're not the biggest friends of the French now. You know, I'm noticing there's a lot of livestock and wheat in Ireland, which makes me think that I can just turn the entirety of Ireland into one big food basket to feed the entirety of my empire. I think that would be the best choice here. Nothing wrong can come out of that, right? I am going to start annexing one of my subjects, the bishopric of Durham, and only this one. Why is that? Because I actually feel like I can get a decent amount of control over there, since the entirety of the western coast has really high maritime presence, and because of that maritime presence, the proximity is really good. So check it out. The entire coastline here has about 40 to 50 control because of the proximity. I love it. I absolutely love it. We're gonna do the same to the eastern coastline too, or better yet, western coastline, once we have a third fleet where we can just assign it to that particular province, maritime province. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, one of the most famous history books from the 1300s and the staple of 14th century literature, in my opinion, English literature in any case. We have this as a magnus opus in London as of now, and Geoffrey Chaucer, which is one of our artists, gets some extra skill. He is 83 artist skill. That is actually pretty high. He's also an embezzler and lazy. Okay, they failed to mention that in history class, am I right? So now we're a little bit multitasking here, doing 2 wars at the same time, which should result in us getting basically the entirety of Ireland. There you go. The northern nations are almost gone. Surprisingly, they would give me their independence, but they don't want to give me their money. I thought they're Irish, not Swiss bankers. All right, so now we just have, that's it. Actually, that's everybody. That is literally everybody. We got Order of Ireland because this is a rebellion of our subject Munster. We can give these lands over to Galloway. I'm honestly just too lazy to make more subjects here. 3 big subjects is more than enough for now, in my opinion. The northern bits we can give to Derry also, and of course Leinster areas we're going to give to the Pale, named like that because everybody in this country is actually very pale. Also, I've got a few questions. I'm not sure why, but Norfolk, this area of my country, has the highest population. Is this historical? Why is this such high population? This is crazy. Look at this. Out of all the country, Norfolk and Suffolk are ridiculously high pops. I'm also going to be settling the 60 tribesmen in the Inner Hebrides because I just want to get rid of the tribesmen estate. It's pointless having that just for 60 people. And I've been using my advisors to just develop my country now. I'm going to permanently have one of them developing London. I want to get London to 100 development ASAP. Now, boys, events like these is really what makes England such a special nation. We have 2 options. 20 prestige, not bad. But the good stuff is here. 50 cultural influence. That is insane, boys. That's 50% increase compared to what we got right now. And we get for 20 years the form of curry, which increases demand for pepper and cloves. So if we import that, we can make a buttload of money off of importing it. So of course we're going to be introducing it. And we just researched armories. It is time to spam armories. This is how we win the war against the French, boys. We're going to get armories, which we're going to turn into professional soldiers with the manpower we get from them. We're going to have cannons. We're going to have handgooners. We're going to have leggooners, all types of soldiers with which we can actually win against the French. And yes, we're drilling continuously our armies whilst at peace. What do you guys think? Should we make Canterbury also a town, considering this is where the Canterbury Tales originate from Josie Chaucer? Maybe we should, yeah. Another vital building for us to build is the gunsmith. Gunsmiths are going to be required for pretty much the rest of the campaign, and the sooner we have a steady flow of gunsmiths in our country, the more powerful we get, as well as we can trade these and get other nations dependent on our gun trade, preventing them from building their own or not focusing on building their own gun industry as much. And if we were to suddenly stop giving them guns, they could be in a lot of trouble. Same thing with the cannon maker. We want to have as many cannon makers as we can, and now we can start recruiting regular soldiers. Oh my god, Jeffrey, you are the best. Seriously, look at how many options we've got to get good stuff from him. We can even get up to 100 stability with that. But I think the cultural influence is what I'm really about. I really want to see as much cultural influence as I can get my hands on, because I want to overtake the French, which I'm sure have a ridiculous amount of cultural influence. Oh my god, they just annexed Normandy. I mean, technically that's not bad for me that they annexed Normandy. The more centralized they are, the easier the war's gonna be. You know, historically, it was the French that started using a buttload of cannons that helped them win the war against the English, but in our case, we are the ones that are starting to recruit a buttload of cannons first, and we're gonna use them against the French. Ah, yes, my pretties, build me an army worthy of Mordor. I mean, England. Oh, yeah, baby. Banking time, everybody. Let's queue up all the banking technologies that we need now, including the docks that I was mentioning earlier, the barks, and, as the English especially, protected harbor is a pretty big deal too, as is encourage urbanization. This one cabinet action gives us plus 50 flat population promotion speed, so when you're industrializing especially, this is going to come in massive handy, allowing you to get insane amounts of pops promoted really fast. Pound Law Canal also is huge in our cities. We don't have many cities right now, but we will at some point, as is max literacy, as you'd imagine. Entreport's pretty good too, and it's also time that we get some hand gooners. We're also going to start pushing away from decentralization now, slowly, but we're starting the process. So first thing we're doing is we're canceling the communal lands privilege for the yeoman, which gives plus 0.2 decentralization push. That way we only get 0.24 decentralization push, so once we get rid of a couple more privileges or legislation, we should be able to start pushing towards centralization. And I'm not able to research all of the Renaissance stuff instantly, but I'm still accepting it a bit ahead of time because we want to get the 5% number of embraced institutions extra research boost. That being said, from the Renaissance tree, we basically need everything. So first thing we're doing, we're pushing for the cabinet seat, which includes the possible government reform. We want to lower the expected costs of court. We want to get the universities, which is going to massively help us get extra cultural influence. The crown power is huge. The extra level of chancery, everything in Renaissance pretty much is huge, boys. I mean, how do I put this? You want to research this ASAP, really? I'm going to hold off on the cultural capacity because I don't really have many other cultures I need to worry about right now, though. Okay, the French have made the mistake of actually landing in our country now, so we're going to be getting insane amounts of war score from just crushing their armies on our own turf. Let's go, baby. Please bring more soldiers. I want you to bring a lot more. Also, we need to codify the recruitment law, and I'm actually going to be going for the peasant levy size increase. 2% extra peasant levies is really a lot of pops. And look at that. This is going to be another stack wipe on the French. There you go. Exactly what I was saying. 8,000 soldiers that they will not have an easy time replacing, that's for sure. Oh, another 4,000 you say? Don't mind if I do, buddy. We're literally winning this war on the Isles. Okay, they really want to freaking land like crazy. That is very aggressive AI right there. Come on, gotta catch him. Oh, Poke France. Yep, look at that. They are about to get a Schnippeldorp. Chase them down, boys. Chase them down. I literally got 34 war score without even landing into France, my dude. This is crazy. I'm gonna enforce on them, and I'm gonna grab French lands without even visiting those areas. That's how strong the English are, if you know how to play as them, of course, and how easy you can win the 100 Years' War later in the campaign, not at the start. Remember that. That's why we want to keep this going, the situation, for as long as possible. And for those of you wondering how I managed to get this to happen, is I just station my fleets in harbors. I'm letting the English have free reign when it comes to the seas during the entirety of the war. That way they get more confident with disembarking in my area and just getting as many soldiers on the British Isles as they can. The thing is, they cannot just transfer all 50,000 of their armies instantly. They have to do it one by one. So whenever that happens, I wipe them out before they manage to merge into bigger stacks. We wiped out 45,000 soldiers. That is crazy. We literally wiped out half of the entirety of the French army already. Wow. Now we're taking the fight to them, and we're actually going to try and siege a couple of their fortifications here down. All right, boys. So I think this is the point where I'm going to be doing my peace deal. I got 69% war score, 50% from battles, and 25 from defender taking because they didn't get the war goal. And I feel like this would be a fairly decent peace deal. I could also alternatively take the entirety of the Cotentin Peninsula, but I like to get as much of the coastline as I can get my hands on, and a little bit of money too. It's still a win. It's a big progress compared to the previous wars when we were just aiming for a white peace. This is the beginning of the end for France, because us getting this little coastline is just a foothold that we're going to be expanding upon massively with the next war. Remember that we just unlocked our regular units, so we're going to have a much sizable professional army in the next war. I did lose a lot of my ships in this one though, because the French have actually been building proper ships, so I'm going to have to double down on the amount of galleys that I have before the next war, and I'm actually going to have to research heavy ships and use heavy ships for the French wars especially. basically. We're gonna need the early Carracks, basically. I've also gone ahead and I've made it in the options so that my vassals have the same color as me, because now it actually looks a lot more beautiful on the map. I love this. Looks like Aragon also would like to have an alliance with me. I'm actually okay with that because I can use them as... Oh god, actually they just got wiped out by the Crown of Castile. I mean, technically they're still not bad. We can use them as a counterbalance to both Castile and the French. Ooh, it's not going to be easy though. Not a big deal also because we do have now our professional soldiers. Now with the area in northern France, we could release the Duchy of Normandy, which has a lot of cores. But like I showed earlier, because we've got the 100 Years' War, we can get very easily lands without having to go for any sort of cores of any sort of shape, so we don't need to worry about that too much. Plus, this would be a French language, French culture group nation. I'd rather not, to be fair. I'm just going to make a custom subject. Again, a Dominion, which is, in my opinion, the most powerful type of subject in the game right now. Well, probably not as powerful as the Turkish one, to be fair. Oh my god, we finally got docks. Let's go, baby! Oh, I need all the docks, please. I was a little bit curious to see if there's been any cultural conversion. Apparently there has been. About 20% of our little subject here is English now. Same here in the Irish areas. We've got a lot more English. 100% by the coastline there's English. That's pretty cool to see. And in the very northern tip, we've got a little shining beacon of Englishness. Same with Wales. It is becoming very, very English very fast. Surprisingly though, in Plymouth, the opposite happened. I don't know how, but there's more Cornish now in Plymouth than there are English. What is happening here? Actually, what is happening? The Cornish, they're strong, bro, I'm telling you. Okay, most of my army was actually destroyed in the war, so we're gonna have to rebuild everything. Oh, and the holiest of holiest advances is here, boys, finally. Do take note though, we've got a decent amount of maritime presence. We should have a lot more though. We had close to 100, but I think for like 20 years I forgot to set my ships out, so I kind of screwed myself over with that. I had my ship stationed in harbor for no reason. I really hope we get the like also we can continue this one, because I'm actually having a ton of fun as the English. And make sure to subscribe if you want to support the channel, and get the game with my link if you haven't gotten it yet, or any game from the Paradox forums. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.